Welcome back to my studio. I'm Yvette Mecca. Let's go. Welcome to the 2-for-1 journal series. Let's start with a quick review. This journal has a device that'll hold all our tassels, and inside we added a ribbon which will serve as our book page holder. For now, we'll set it off to the side while we gather our pages for the signature. Pages I've already selected and I've pre-folded them. Here is the template that I made. And now I'm just selecting the longer pieces versus the shorter. I like a lot of lined papers so that I can do a lot of journaling. I've also selected 2 pieces of cardstock that are going to serve as the signature cover and the middle of the signature. The template will serve as our device to give us a guideline on where we should cut our paper depending on the size. Here I'm making tick marks to determine if I want to cut or if I'm going to fold the paper instead. Yeah, instead of cutting, this is one that I will fold. I'm going to fold right in front of that tick mark that I made. Now I can either use this as extra journaling or I can seal it so that it can become a tuck. And I'm going to do the same to both sides. Here I am creating Frankenstein paper. This is one method. There are plenty. I'm going to combine these 2 pieces of paper together without sewing. But before I do so, I'm going to ink up the edges of the top paper or the first paper that I choose. Now you can do any combination of papers that you like and any format that you like. I want to select what part of the paper is going to be the top and which part of the paper is going to be the bottom. Once I do that, I'm going to fold that paper because it was already pre-folded, and I'm just going to center it with the other paper. Who's on top and who's on the bottom. I'm going to add some self-adhesive double-sided tape. Again, this can also be done with a glue stick, and it can also be done by sewing. By starting from the center ensures that it will be even on both sides. Now that I have them both connected, I'm going to use the template to determine what section of both papers would I like. And there you have it, my version of Frankenstein paper. Now that I have all the pieces that I'd like, I'm going to audition them to see how I want them inside the journal. By using a combination of plain papers and lined paper and printed images, it gives me a better feel and flow of how I want them to be used when it's time to use the journal. By placing all the sheets within themselves, I have created the first signature. Now it's time to go through and see how they all flow together. Because this journal has the dangle on the outside, we're going to position our first stitch below where the feet are in the inside of the journal. After I make that first mark, I'm going to balance it out and make my second mark coming from the bottom of the signature. And then I'll make the third mark in between the two. With wax thread, I'm going to measure 3 times the length of the signature. Using a blunt needle, I'm going to thread it. Now, before I actually puncture any holes in this signature, I'm going to make sure all of my pages are exactly where I intended them to be. Words are not upside down, images are not upside down, and if I want the paper to be centered, it is centered versus up high or down low. If that is my intent, then I'm going to proceed with making the first puncture in this signature. Now I want to clip everything together so that it's nice and secure. Starting with the middle, I'm puncturing through the first signature. I've lined it up with the center of the spine of the journal, so I already know where to go. So I'm making sure that all of my holes are lined up. Now, once everything is lined up, I'm going to start going through each individual hole. But we're going to start with the first middle. Then we're going to go through the top. So if you don't want yours to come through like that just happened, make sure you're holding on or you leave enough of the thread or tail so that you won't be repeating your steps. Take that, come down the top, go down to the bottom, and then come back up through the middle. By holding the tail, it's easier for me to come through the middle, and I want to make sure that I'm on opposite sides of the thread that's already there. Now, after I pull everything taut, I'm going to make my 2 knots. I don't want it too tight because it's not going to have enough room for movement. All done. We have sewn in our first signature. Now it's time to rinse and repeat. Wait, there's more. Can't forget about our sidekick. Here's the other signature. Remember that we decided not to do fabric on the outside? So with that being said, I'm going to use that advantage and I'm going to mark the outside centering where I'd like my holes to be. I'm going to use my awl to create the holes. Like the first signature, we're going to do the same with our signature papers that I've already selected. I have the template here off to the side, and I have these pre-folded pages ready to go. I have my 2 covers for the insert for the center as well as the signature cover. Now it's time to rinse and repeat. The same thing we did with the first signature, for the most part, we'll do with this one as well. We're inserting each page within itself to create that signature. Here is where you want to add any characteristics. Your stitching, like you saw, I rounded the corners of the pages. It's easier to do it while it's not inserted in the actual journal. So now I'm going to line up the signature with the outside holes so that I'll know where to mark in the signature itself. Again, we're going to take that wax thread and we're going to measure 3 times the length of the signature. We're going to thread our blunt needle and insert it into the middle of the signature. Bring it up the top of the signature of the spine. All the way down to the bottom. And then back up to the center of the signature. And when you come out, you would like to be on opposite sides of the thread that's already there. If not, maneuver and make it happen. Oops, I forgot to add that envelope. I'll probably do it later and just use it as a flip in, or not at all. No biggie. All right. Ta-da! All done. Now that you can see that the signature is centered, you have enough room on both sides for growth, and that is what you're looking for. If you like to add a lot of ephemera and just pages that flip in and flip out, this is what you would want, because that is definitely what I desire. So we're going to tie off this chiffon bow and collar done. We've come to part 3 of our 2-for-1 journal series. You've done it. In the series, you have learned how to break down a cracker box, add a cover and closure, and a gadget to hold your tassels, how to make Frankenstein paper, how to add signatures. With these steps, you are able to make your next journal with ease, out of any box that you see fit. Now, with that said, go somewhere and sit down and stop showing off with all those journals. Till we meet again, thank you so much for joining me. Now go create and be great. Peace.